Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the CONO Candidates Forum. Beautiful day. Glad to see each and every one of you here.
Can you speak a little?
The mic's not working.
I'm gonna pick it up. Sorry, I'm not getting too close to anyone, but I'm better. I don't think you'll catch anything, but I'll speak as loud as I can. Can you hear me now? Good. Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started because we got a fast pace. Yes, it is warm. I'm warm. Anyway, I'm glad to see all of you here. Welcome to each and every one of you. First, I just want to go over some ground rules for the candidates and for the audience. No personal attacks directed toward anyone will be tolerated. Be respectful when others are speaking. There will be strict observance of time. Be careful of the timekeeper. Be respectful of the timekeeper. And they will be sitting there in front. Questions asked to candidates by way of written submitted questions from the audience as time allows. Raise your written questions on for the CONO board to pick up. One question permitted on a card at a time. Each candidate may respond in 2 minutes or less. So each candidate will be asked the same question. And you'll have 2 minutes or less to respond. The timekeeper will give a 30-second warning. Then again, when the time is up, we also have a 15-second warning. So at this time, before we start, we want to have a prayer by Dr. Dana Ray.
Good afternoon. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come together to learn more about the candidates who are interested in being a blessing to this community. We pray, God, that you allow us to ask thought-provoking questions that will allow us to receive answers that can improve our community. We pray, Lord, that this event will be beneficial not only to the participants, but God, also to us who will be receiving the information. And may we use that information in order to use it to be a blessing to this community, in order to put the people in position who will advance our community forward. So we thank you for this opportunity. In your son Jesus' name, amen.
And I didn't introduce myself. I'm Kathy Williams. I'm the president of CONO, Coalition of Neighborhood Organizations. I also would like to recognize our CONO board members. If you would raise your hand that are here. Leanne Ellis, she's vice president. Ann Owens, she's our amazing secretary. And is anybody else here from CONO? I think that's all that are here today, but I'd like to recognize all of them. Sue Barnhart, who's our treasurer. Bert Roberson, who is a member at large also. So all of us have had a tremendous part in putting this together, so I don't want to go without recognizing them. So I'd like to introduce the speaker, not the speaker, but the moderator for today. And maybe some of you know him already. He is Jeff Daly, whose responsibilities, Jeff Daly, who is originally from the St. Louis area, but has been in Central Illinois radio for over 3 decades. Jeff knows the radio industry from the bottom to the top. He has engineering experience, sales, news, weather, and a radio host. Jeff supplies numerous community organizations, Jeff sponsors numerous community organizations and events. He is also a very active supporter in the Lincoln Theater, Special Olympics, and the History of the Heartland historic preservation activities. In 2023, Jeff Daly was promoted to station manager of Cornwell Media, Talk 101 Decatur Radio, 106.7 Fox, 105.1 The Jack, and 98.1 Grizz FM. On behalf of CONO Executive Board officers and the CONO Board, welcome moderator Jeff Daly.
I need hands. Thank you all for coming this afternoon. I'm used to saying this evening, when I'm not hanging out at the Lincoln Square Theater. We appreciate everybody coming out this afternoon to find out and get engaged with our local politics. Thanks to the candidates for participating today. CONO organized this event and continues to work on various community projects. If you're looking to get engaged in your neighborhood, please talk to the organization. It is well worth it. A reminder, Election Day is coming up Tuesday, April 1st, and early voting is now underway. So please, if you're going to vote early, a lot of people took advantage of it in the November election, a great opportunity. The most important thing is, of course, to get educated. We have questions that have been submitted by the audience as they've come in. Thank you all for submitting your questions. I will be reading these questions verbatim and just as they are written and with no editing on my part, as tempting as it may be sometimes, if you've ever listened to my show. All right. Thank you all for coming. We'll start here with Mr. Wrigley and work our way down. Please be mindful of the time. You have 2 minutes to respond to the question. It was mentioned to bring back the Decatur celebration. Where would that funding come from?
That's a pretty good question. I mean, the funding pretty much has come from, we've had most of my donations from local businesses. We've had good money from ADM and Staley's, now Premium, et cetera, et cetera. It's just not, well, thank you. There we go. Most of the funding comes from donations from private businesses. I think the city could supply some funding, but of course we have other big demands on the city budget. Although the city needs to bring things like that into our downtown area to get the neighborhoods involved, get them all locally involved. Sorry, I'm rambling a little bit here. I hadn't thought about that. But I think primarily we have to pursue private donations, as well as the city can make some contribution. But I wouldn't want them to put them on the hook for too much. We have plenty of other demands, but that would be the route I would go, and go to the local businesses and talk to them about what they could do, because a lot of them got shoved out of as the celebration went on and on and on. We had all these national groups coming in and regional groups coming in, and the local groups and businesses, et cetera, got shoved out and couldn't afford it. And we cannot have that happen again. So we can bring it back, but it needs to pay for itself. It was a lot of fun though, wasn't it? It's a good deal. Hope we can bring it back.
I'm going to take just 1 second. This is Jim Wrigley. Jim Wrigley, Micah Ray, Consuelo Cruz, David Horn, and Ed Cole. Okay?
I enjoyed the Decatur celebration long ago, even before I was a Decatur resident. And I think that it provides something that our community desperately needs, and that's a boost in morale if it's done well and ran well. I agree with Jim that we should seek sponsorships and advertising and not put a lot of burden on taxes for it. Recently, taxes were voted to be raised. It's a very sensitive subject in our community because of such high taxes that we have here in Decatur. So I'm of the mind that you have to run it almost the way that you'd run your own family budget. You do what you can with what you have and what you can raise. I would not set grandiose plans that are going to cost us a lot of money, but at the same time, something needs to be done. Effort needs to be put forth to boost morale. And furthermore, along that same subject, our Decatur is going to experience its bicentennial in just 4 years. right at the end of this council run. And I would like to see something put together through private donors, et cetera. We've got to do something to celebrate our 200th birthday. It's got to be amazing. So that's one morale project that I would have if elected to the council.
Thank you. I agree that it will have to be privately funded. As the city will lose some federal support, we have to prioritize fiscal responsibility. If there is money to support other things, we should look at how we could possibly support the school district. So we have to set priorities and adjust to how the government is changing and how that will impact us locally.
Well, I love the Decatur celebration, and I miss it. And I also think that as the Decatur celebration has passed, we are seeing some other exciting opportunities here in Decatur, including the Decatur boat races, which were recognized nationally as a fantastic event. And so when one door closes, another opens. If we are fortunate enough to have the Decatur celebration come back, I fully anticipate that the city will provide in-kind support, such as law enforcement presence at the event, first responder presence in the form of our fire department and paramedics, and I think there's also an opportunity for the Public Works Department to be involved. But all of those things happen in collaboration with private entities that want this to take place.
Well, every time they spoke, I marked something off my list. 20 years of my law enforcement career, I did work down in Celebration, so I got to know a lot of staff in the Celebration Committee. And it is a committee that works 24/7, 365 days a year with a promoter. And it takes a lot to put this together, as we could all remember. I would like to see it come back as well. I know the city and the budgetary issues would be police and fire and different things like that. You have to have EMS standing by. So public safety is always a big thing down there. And it's a 24/7 operation during the entire event. Even after it shuts down, you have officers posted down there as well. So it is a large undertaking, but we had a good celebration board for many years. It was very aggressive with sponsorships and partnerships. So if that can be handled, I'd love to see it come back.
Hang on to it down there. I'm going to reverse the flow if everybody is okay with that. That will make things easier with the microphone cord. We'll lead off here again with Ed Culp, and again, David Horn, Consuelo Cruz, Micah Ray, and Jim Wrigley. I apologize for not introducing you at the very beginning. Question right out of the box. Do you think we should stop the sequestration, obviously in relation to carbon sequestration here in Decatur? Mr. Culp.
Well, the stop is a two-pronged question. You've got ADM as a partner in this, and the US EPA is watching over this. There was a leak, and we were immediately notified by US EPA about the leak. We hired outside counsel that specialized in this area, and it was immediately determined there was no harm to our drinking water at all. But it also opened our eyes to the safety of the storage. So definitely, like I said, we have outside counsel now that does know about this realm with EPA laws and different things like that. So they're looking at it still. But the partnership with ADM, past and present, they've been a key role here in Decatur for us. They've helped us out quite a bit with our families, careers, and things around the community. So I definitely encourage a partnership. However, safety out trumps all of that.
I'm strongly opposed to carbon sequestration under Lake Decatur. When the City Council approved the negotiations of an easement agreement between ADM and the City Council was assured that it was a safe process. Since that time, there have been 2 surface leaks, 1 subsurface leak, 1 deep underground leak, and 1 what's been termed a fluid anomaly. The deep underground leak took place at the very time ADM Company was negotiating the final terms of the easement. That leak should have been acknowledged to the city at that time, it unequivocally would have changed my vote, and it unequivocally should have changed the terms of the agreement. When we have negotiations, we need good faith negotiations, and we need individuals and we need companies to provide specific details that are relevant. And what has happened is that we found out about the leak in the national media. To put things in perspective, those that are opposed to sequestration under the Muhammad Aquifer, which is the sole source drinking water source for nearly 1 million people, they use Decatur as an example of what not to do. That was wrong, and ADM should terminate its easement agreement with the city of Decatur, and they should do it now.
I am opposed to sequestration under Lake Decatur as well. I think if it does continue, a structure needs to be created to improve. Definitely the contract should be renegotiated, but a structure should be created by the council or the city of Decatur to improve the way information is reported. So when there were violations, the council was not notified. I think there should be an improvement in the way violations and issues are reported to the council.
Very close in agreement with the previous two people here on the dais. For those of you who don't know, you hear carbon sequestration. What is that? Real quickly, if you're in this room and you don't know, carbon dioxide is produced from the manufacturing process, and if it goes into the atmosphere, that's normally what our plants eat, and then they spit back out oxygen for us. If there's too much, though, there's greenhouse gases. So this is a process by which they take the gas and format it and then pump it underground up to 5,000 feet or more below the ground, supposedly into nice rocky areas that are not permeable, and to allow that to come back up through the soil, and then it affects the rocks and stuff in the bottom of Lake Decatur in this situation, and it leaches things into the water and affects ultimately our drinking supply. So yes, public health and safety is the #1 priority. The EPA is supposed to be on top of this. Perhaps we should even look into having another watchdog group or somebody else do their own independent testing to check up on the checkups and to make sure that health and safety is honored. Because on the other hand, you've also got ADM, which is a really large employer in the area, and it's a complicated balancing act. I agree with Mr. Horn that the public safety is priority. We got to work together the best that we can and try to find that solution, that balance.
I think it's a miracle they could look 5,000 feet underground and know what's happening well enough to ensure our safety, don't you? Can we, I'm sorry, that just gets me.
It's a shale deposit. Shale deposits leak.
Well, they all leak.
Exactly.
They all leak. And how do we know what's going down there 5,000 feet? ADM didn't tell us, period, and they knew what was going on. It is a hazardous waste. I do not want Decatur to be a hazardous waste disposal for the rest of the Midwest. The science is uncertain, unproven. We should shut it down and shut it down right now, period. And I used to work at ADM. It's a great place to work, but you
So
need,
did I.
it's not, this is not safe.
Thank you all for your responses. Thanks for the question. The next question is, what ideas do you have to bring a 1,000 plus job employer to the city of Decatur? And again, we'll start down here as we reverse the flow. Start down here with Mr. Cullen.
That'd be wonderful, wouldn't it? But we do have the infrastructure that we're working on, especially on the northeast side of town, the fiber optics, water, sewer, and that's exactly what we're trying to provide here, is provide sites for people to come. We have different incentives for new companies, and we're hoping that we can bring those companies here. But a 1,000 employee facility, that'd be wonderful to have.
I too think that it would be wonderful if we had an employer who brought 1,000 jobs to the city of Decatur. But I'd like us to think a little bit differently about how we're going to grow the city and how we're going to grow the labor force. Since 2010, the population of Decatur has declined 10%, and our labor force has declined 20%. And I would argue that the three things that we need to do is focus on public safety, job creation, and neighborhood revitalization to grow our population. And in terms of job creation, we need to focus on small businesses and give our small businesses the opportunity to grow and increase their number of employees. Every municipality wants an employer with 1,000 jobs to come to their municipality. What we can do differently is make sure that we solidify our small businesses, make sure that they have the opportunities to grow. And to do that, we need more people, more residents living in Decatur to support those small businesses. And that's why we need neighborhood revitalization. And so I do appreciate the opportunity if we get someone who wants to bring 1,000 jobs, but I also think we start with our smaller businesses and helping them out.
I agree with that. I think when companies like that are looking for places to invest in, they look at those local economies. And by investing in small businesses, we strengthen our local economies and we attract larger businesses. So we have to really invest in our smaller businesses and also investing in our youth. So when we bring a company like that to Decatur, who's going to work there? So we need to invest in the youth, our educational system. Some city councils will have a committee that works with the district or an educational liaison. I think Decatur could benefit from that, especially as the Department of Education is going away. We need to look at how we can invest in our youth and retain kids that are, so if you go to a high school and you have an A student and you ask them what are they going to do, how many of them say, I want to stay in Decatur and find a job? You know, we need to increase the morale around staying in Decatur and retaining talent, natural talent from Decatur. So I think we need to invest in our youth and also invest in small businesses to make it more attractive for larger businesses to come here.
I have been a small business owner in my past, and I believe also that small business is very important. It spreads the responsibility around a little bit more. I'd love to have a larger employer come back, like the days of, you know, Firestone or other places that used to be here. It went away, but you have to think the bottom line for everybody in business is money. That's usually the biggest thing. So we've got to make it palatable to any business that wants to start here in Decatur, that they think that they can turn a profit and support their employees. At the same time, we have to have a holistic approach across the board. People have got to want to move here and or stay here in order to work here. They have to love where their kids are going to school. They have to have better morale, and they have to have fair taxes for their properties and things like that. Because a larger business isn't going to come unless they know they've got a pool to pull from that's going to want to work and quality employees to work at their establishment. So we got to make sure that Decatur's full of quality people ready to work and excited about that, and then we have to incentivize them to come to this area as well. As we improve the overall life across the board in Decatur for people that want to work here and live here, there's so many more facets to this than just, well, let's just give them a big deal and give them a piece of property and let them move here. But it'll be an entire holistic approach to be able to get people to want to love and not leave Decatur.
Well, being number 5 doesn't leave much to say, really. I'm number 5 of 9 kids. It's that way at home, too. Anyway, I think I think what the city's currently doing to encourage and bring investment into town, they're doing a good job. I mean, look what's happening out on the northeast corner, where that huge foundry that Mueller put up. I mean, I used to work there too. I just about cheered when I saw that going up. And that is a direct result of the taxing incentives, et cetera, and the programs that the city has worked with, and they've gone out and promoted the city. Now, let's say we've got those coming here. What keeps people from coming to Decatur to want to work and raise their families? Two things, I think. You have to have a job, crime, and schools. When you're scared, when you know driving through the middle of Decatur on a Saturday afternoon, there just might be gunshots going across the street, I'm sorry, the city's not safe. That is the perception, and every day when you pick up the paper, there it is. We need to improve crime. The second thing is the school districts. If you go out and you're looking at houses, this is direct experience, and you've got a house on this, right here on this side of the street, and a house over here, virtually identical. This one's in the Decatur School District, this one is not. The one that's not in the Decatur School District will sell for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 more, and that's no exaggeration, that's real. Now, I'm not pointing a finger at anybody, but crime in the schools would keep me, if I was raising a young family, I wouldn't care about the job. Those two issues would keep me out of here, unless we address them, and we can. We can take care of this, but it's going to have to be a priority, a clear priority of concrete goals, not pie in the sky.
Well, Jim, you're going to get your wish. I'm going to reverse the flow again, just to go from this end back down. Just keeping everybody on their toes. All right. Please, what is the process for hiring and replacing the city manager and assistant city manager, and are qualified applicants provided an opportunity to apply?
I don't know what the process is, to be quite frank with you, I don't know. I know they do some recruiting, et cetera. They hire a search firm, go out and look for them. I've never been around the process. One thing I have noted, it seems like we don't do much promoting from within as much as we could. We go out of town, we hire these people, they come in town, they work for 4 or 5 years, qualify for an expensive pension, and then they're down the road. I think the main thing, like I said, I don't know the current process, but I think it needs to be out there that the candidates that the council selects should be published in the paper before they're ever go any further the next round of interviews. If they could boil it down to 3 or 4 or 5, put them in the paper and their backgrounds for public comment before. I know it's a hiring decision, but this guy, how much does he make? 200,000+? Just hired a new assistant for $175,000. Wow,
Yeah.
that's a lot of dough. You know, but it just seems that we could do more to promote our own people. We've got 70,000 people in this town. I think they'd be capable, rather than always grabbing the career bureaucrats who are going to come to town for a little while and then pack up their wheels and go. The current city manager doesn't even live in Decatur, nor his new assistant. I guess it's not necessary, but you know, if you're going to run a place, you ought to be there. You know, I think so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's all I say. Use pen, not pencil. Anyway, okay, I'm rambling now. I better get off the phone here. So that's all I have to say.
I've never been privy to the process or how it works. I do know that I want somebody who is competent in that position, especially if they're going to be paid what, to me, I don't know what you all make, but to me that's paid very well. I know it's a big
Really?
job. I know it's a lot of responsibility, and we need somebody who either has a proven track record with that sort of experience, and once they get in that position, I would like somebody who's researching. There's got to be. One of the reasons I'm running for city council is a few years ago I read an article that at that time Decatur, Illinois was the second highest exodus city in the entire United States. There was one other city down in Alabama that people were leaving faster than they were leaving here. And I thought, well, that's all the product of decisions that are made that affect people to make them want to do what they do and want to leave and look for greener pastures. And part of that, the lion's share of that, rests on the Decatur City Council, the mayor, the city manager, and then a large part of it also is represented by the school system, which you'll hear from later. but there's got to be other cities that face similar challenges. There needs to be somebody willing to do research, find out what has worked in other places before. I know if I've got a project around my house, I start looking around on YouTube and figure out how to do it. Not that you're going to find on YouTube how to run your city, but these people need to converse with other people that are leading good cities that are thriving or perhaps have been in distress and are now thriving. We need to find out what works, and we need leadership that's willing to find out what works, not keep any status quo. And I want to hire those people.
I have to tell you, there's a document that you can see on the City of Decatur's website called Salaries Over $75,000, which has to be reported. And I was surprised to see that the deputy city manager makes more than the police chief. I think we should definitely prioritize people who risk their lives as far as salary. And as an equal opportunity employer, which I assume the City of Decatur is, I think all positions should be publicly posted and everyone should be given the same opportunity to apply.
So in regards to the hiring of a city manager, the general process is for the city council to hire a consulting firm. In this case, we use HR Gov, who in turn will identify candidates that will apply for the position. But that is not what happened for this particular process. While we did reach out to HR Gov, we essentially selected one person to become the next city manager, and the only reason that that person even had an interview with the current city council is because one member of the council did not know them. Otherwise, I'm confident that my colleagues would have voted to approve the city manager without them even coming down to speak to the city council members. I have publicly expressed my frustration about this process repeatedly while it was occurring and during the vote in which the city manager was approved. What was said was that our city manager knew Decatur, and that would be an advantage. And then what did he do? He proposed a 9% property tax increase in a city with the 10th highest effective property tax rate in the United States. And ultimately, some of my colleagues voted for a 6% property tax increase. The process was wrong, and we do not know if we identified the best candidate.
Well, Mr. Horn hit on the process, and that is correct. HR Gov is normally a search company we would use. If you know Tim Gleason, you'll know that in his previous tenure here, he did turn around a lot of things for us. And to get someone like him interested, we didn't want to pass up the opportunity because during the last process, there was not much interest, to be perfectly honest with you. So for him to show interest and then problems that we were having internally, Tim was the right answer for us. And he's turned out to be that. But yes, we do have a process. We meet during executive session and discuss the applicants and or personnel issues, and we try to come with a consensus. It's one thing I learned about being on the council is you and 3 others. It'd be nice to have everyone. You have to agree on the topic. And when Tim came back, it was an overwhelming vote for his approval. And he's done a great job since he's been here. Not all decisions are easy.
Thank you all for your answers. Coming off the lunch hour, kind of a pertinent question. Do you support a city ordinance blocking food trucks from setting up in downtown Decatur?
Why would I do that? I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not being smart, you know what, but that makes no sense. I mean, that's
business.
that's a feeder business. We've got a new Mexican restaurant out there on Brush College Road that he started out the food truck. And he's got a wonderful business there, and now he's getting ready to open up another place right downtown, a small place there by, I think right by Central Park. So if they meet the health standards, if they're properly inspected and they're safe and clean, and I, you know, the existing restaurants downtown, they're the ones that don't want them down there. Just like they didn't want them all in town. And what happened? When it went out of town, and downtown died. Until recently, they've done great things, you know, kind of a renaissance downtown, getting it back up there. But those restaurants downtown will have to compete just like everybody else. But those food trucks are a way for a guy that doesn't have a bunch of money, man or woman, pardon me, doesn't have a bunch of money to get started. And who knows? So I would say, no. We should not ban them from being there. There should be no ordinance not letting them in.
Competition promotes excellence. I am pro-business, and I am obviously pro-food.
No, I would not support an ordinance to block food trucks.
I'm very supportive of having food trucks in downtown Decatur around Central Park. In fact, I've done my best to make that happen. I've certainly voted for it when the opportunity came to have that vote. If we're, as a city, going to thrive, we need to have more residents and have those residents support small businesses. What has happened is that the majority of the city council have voted to effectively ban food trucks from being in downtown Decatur by making the regulations so onerous that it's incredibly difficult for any entity to want to be downtown. Food trucks attract people. People then spend their discretionary dollars downtown supporting all businesses. So this ban or making regulations so onerous that no food trucks will be downtown has hurt small businesses, it decreases quality of life, and it needs to be changed.
I also I'm definitely a big fan of food trucks. I stop there often, as you can tell. So I don't have a big problem with it, but brick and mortar places that do pay taxes downtown did bring up concerns we had to at least address to represent them as well. Their power supply, their water supply, their garbage service during the time they were down there. And that had to fit in hours. There was a bunch of logistics to it that we tried to jump through the hoops. I'm still wanting to come back with a better idea. They have food trucks down there during certain events. However, on a normal basis, I'd love to see a better idea come back before so we can vote on it. But I am all about food trucks. Smackin' Tacos was a good example. He started out there over there by 22nd and Pershing, and he's running something else. And in fact, he's opened another store downtown as well. So he's done well. That's one example of many food trucks. I'm not opposed to it, but I do believe there's a lot of logistics that needs to be worked out.
We'll go ahead and shift it back down to this end to start. What would your goals be in improving the healthcare system in Decatur?
Yeah. We were just talking about that the other day at the city council, and then also here on the side. It's a nationwide thing. I've got family and friends here. I've got grandkids now, and when they go to the ER, they're sitting there for hours. I believe it's a customer service issue. I believe we're still talking about it. We still need to meet with these hospitals. I understand where they're at. I'm still in law enforcement at the academy and recruiting for law enforcement stuff. It's tough recruiting for teachers, for medical staff. The public service aspect has fallen to the side for some reason, and they're running the same problems that we are. But we need to have discussions with them. And I too am frustrated. Now, I'm not going to blame it on the nation thing. I'm frustrated locally. because I hear great service over at Kirby. So I know it's possible, I know it's in this area, but we need to fix something here in town.
Well, I'm a strong supporter in having public discussions about the state of the healthcare system here in Decatur, Illinois. The first thing we need to do is invite the public to share their experiences with what is occurring here. And to be clear, at the last city council meeting, we could not even have 4 council members concur to host a town hall meeting with residents of Decatur for them to discuss their concerns about health care. And I thank my colleague, Councilman Culp, who consented, Councilman Cooper, who consented, and myself, who consented. And Councilman Cooper and I, and we'll invite Councilman Culp as well, are committed to hosting a town hall meeting very soon about the state of health care in Decatur. It's also important to know that the city plays an important role in the emergency response. And I see a Decatur firefighter in the audience, and we thank you for your service and for your amazing care of our residents when there is an emergency. We play a major role in that emergency response. We play a major role in licensing ambulance services. And so for our 4 colleagues on the city council to say they wouldn't even discuss it publicly, that's wrong. Because when we talk about how we're going to increase the number of people and residents, having an extraordinary healthcare system is one of the top things on the list. We can do better.
I support having a town hall. I also support a subcommittee being formed that would work with the hospitals and possibly legislators and looking for opportunities where we can be assisted by legislators in addressing some of the issues maybe the hospitals are having, which we don't know since we haven't had those conversations. I think there is definitely an opportunity where we can create some metrics. I think some of these things should be more available and possibly on the city's website, where residents set some criteria of things that they prioritize like this, and let's set possibly 5 goals that we want to see improvements in. So with the healthcare, it could be, I don't know, whatever the issues are, fatalities or, care service or whatever it is, let's make that visible.